So let's answer Emma's question first, which is talking about paper space and text. Let's see here. Okay, and so I want to, before we get into that though, I'm going to show, this is for Brian because I got this today. This is an email that I got, so I'm going to show you guys here real quick. Because you were asking about drafting jobs, right? So these are just from LinkedIn, so I haven't vetted them. I don't know anything about them other than I saw them on LinkedIn, right? So I can post this to the Architecture Club. Are you part of the club on Canvas?
No, I need to get into it.
Okay. I think I sent an email out in the beginning of the semester that just you can add yourself. Okay. So it looks like they are hiring for, it says AutoCAD drafter, but then it's Precision BIM. I don't know that company, but looks like they're looking for an AutoCAD drafter. Nexus is hiring. So this is, job captain is probably like 5 to 8 years experience, so maybe likely a little bit past what you know. But Cache Valley Electric is looking for a CAD drafter. Let's see, CAD drafter, I don't even know, Intellis, I don't know who that is. But BIM modeler, so if you know Revit, I think Sky is the only one in here that knows Revit. And I've actually gotten an email from Spectrum Engineers saying that they need BIM modelers. So if you know BIM and you want a job, then that'd be a pretty good job because they're actively looking. But there are several jobs just even on LinkedIn for beginning AutoCAD. So I wanted to show you that before we started. So I'll just post that image, not knowing that I haven't like investigated any of them, but I just get all these, you know, anyway. All right, so let's talk about, I'm going to open up, let's see if we have a file here in our, let me open up one from the CAD Common here.
Is there, before you do that, is there a file that you would, okay, because I keep, for my template file, I'm just all over the place. I'm not saving all of my layers in one specific, which would be ideal. Is there a project that you would recommend that we actually use with, or you know what I mean, like open the file so that we can save? Like, is there one in specific that you would, does that make sense?
To start with?
Yeah.
That is existing like in the CAD Common or something? Probably not. And I say that because a lot of these files were generated in older versions of AutoCAD, and I think that, I mean, there's that, which can cause issues, but then, you know, Jeff created them, and I don't, on some of them I've noticed there are a few hiccups for whatever reason on specific topics. So like when I'm creating dimensions in one, it won't work very well, so I have to start a fresh file. So there's some weirdness in some of these files that, you know, it's fine for me kind of demonstrating, but if you wanted to start a brand new file, you may run into issues. Yeah, I think maybe the best way of going about it is if you're like, hey, I know that I have, and this is kind of against the rules, but you guys will figure it out, right? If you have like a file that has good dimensions, and you have a file that has good layers, and you have a file that has good blocks, right? You know, you have these three. I would likely just open up a blank template file from AutoCAD, the DWT file, right? And then I would use the insert command. Remember we talked about that? And do I, and then insert the one with the good layers. You know, insert the one with the good blocks, and insert the one with. You do have to do it in separate commands. So you type I, enter, search for that file, click and place it, and nothing really happens except it brings in settings, right? And you can do that with all three of them separately, and all that stuff will migrate into one file. Yeah. Now, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where, again, the idea behind starting a template file is that there's nothing has been drawn in there, and it has a lot of integrity, right? It's clean, it has all these great settings. So you're kind of maybe going around that system by inserting files that have already been drawn in, right? But you're still kind of new at it, so maybe that's okay-ish. Just don't do it anywhere else, right? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let me open up a file here. All right, so we have our little bathroom file here, right? And this is a confusing topic, so I'm going to try and work my way through it the best I can. But essentially, when you are creating text in model space, right? You're not only creating generally text in model space, you're usually creating buildings or projects or things in model space, right? So you're drawing big and small things, right? And so what that means is that when you generate text in model space, you have to create it using annotative text so that AutoCAD will take that text and it will scale it up so that when you print it, it will be scaled down and be the right size, right? That's the whole idea behind annotative text, because if you want your text to be 3/32 of an inch tall, and you place 3/32 of an inch tall text next to a building that's 4 miles wide and 6 miles deep, it's going to be so microscopically tiny, right, that you won't be able to see it. Okay, so in order for that text actually to read at 3/32 of an inch, AutoCAD might scale it up so it's actually 2 feet tall in model space, so that when you scale that and the building down, that it actually only reads 3/32 of an inch when you print it. Okay, that's how model space works. So you draw things that are real world scale, you put text in there that is larger than it needs to be, so that when you scale it down on a physical piece of paper that we print from a printer, right, it reads a certain height. It's a confusing topic, right? So that's how model space works. When you go to paper space and you create text, paper space is actually the place that you print from, right? So I have a piece of paper in here, or a representation of a piece of paper in here, and this piece of paper is physically big enough to print from a printer, right? And so when I print from paper space, or when I create things in paper space, I don't have to scale them up to scale them back down. I make them the right size in paper space so that when I print them, they are already the right size in paper space. All right, so this paper is 8.5 by 11 inches, okay? If I go, hopefully I have a text style that's already created. If I create a piece of single line text and I come down here and I type justify, enter, middle center, click, and I make this piece of text 1/2 of an inch tall, enter, I can type my name, okay? And that text right there, if I measure it, DIST, is 1/2 of an inch tall, all right? So because this piece of paper is essentially 1-to-1 scale in paper space, the text that I generate on it can be 1-to-1 scale, right? Because this is where I'm printing from, and the text, right, will print on that piece of paper the 1-to-1 scale, at 1-to-1 scale, which is what it should be. Now, if I want text to be 1/2 of an inch tall, in model space here, all right, I type in text, justify, enter, middle center, enter. I'm going to click on my middle center of text. Let's say I still want it to be 1/2 of an inch tall, right? Sorry, you know what? This text style. Let me alter this text style just a tiny bit. I think that'll still work. Okay, sorry. Text, justify, middle center, middle point of text, enter, 1/2 inch, enter. I'm going to type in floor plan. Okay. And because I am printing this floor plan at 1/2 of an inch is equal to a foot, let's find it here in paper. Oh. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Who's been in my file, huh? Let's turn all these back on. There we go. Oop. Half inch is equal to a foot. Okay. There we go. All right. So when I'm in model space, I create text that's a 1/2 inch tall, but I set my annotation to a 1/2 inch, my annotation scale to a 1/2 inch, which means that if I'm going to do a list, LI, and measure that text, it's actually 1 foot tall, right? And if you scale it down through, but when you scale it down through a viewport, when I view it through Paperspace, let me measure it. It's actually, let me turn that off, there we go. Going to be a 1/2 inch tall, right? Do you see that? So in model space, right, text has to be scaled up to be printed at a scaled down size, right? And you do that by using the annotation scale, right, at the bottom of the screen. In Paperspace, because we are a 1-to-1 scale, you can create text that is a 1/2 inch just by saying it's going to be a 1/2 inch tall, and it will print that size because we're not scaling our page. Hopefully, does that make a little bit of sense? Somewhat. Well, no. Some text, yes. So things like titles, right? So when I have a view title that says, and it somewhat looks like, let me draw what a view title looks like, right? Maybe when I have my little titles and they look like this, right? And there's a number in there and it says floor plan 1/8 of an inch is equal to a foot or whatever, right? Those things, yeah, those are great to put into Paperspace because I can put them in there, I can change the text, it's 1-to-1 and it makes sense, right? I can put my name in Paperspace. But the problem with putting all of your text in Paperspace is that drawings are a dynamic thing and you're constantly changing them. And when you have your text in model space, it sort of is easier to change and to coordinate where that text needs to move according to where the drawing is drawn, right? As opposed to like in Paperspace here, if I just drawn like all my leaders and descriptive text notes and all that good stuff in here, it would be harder for me to associate those notes with the drawing. So some text is appropriate, like names and titles and general notes, but other pieces of text, like annotation or any dimensions or anything like that, is really not very appropriate in Paperspace. It should be in model space. Although I say that, so when I worked at AJC, we worked for the National Park Service a lot, and the National Park Service has their own CAD standard. So when you start a project for them, they hand you a file, they give you a pen file, and they tell you how to work in AutoCAD essentially. They're like, here's what our drawings are called, here's how we use XREFs, here are the layers that we use, here's our pen file, here's where we're going to draw floor plans, here's where we're going to draw elevations. And their standard, which is extremely unusual, was to dimension and annotate in Paperspace. And so we had to do it that way, but it caused a lot of issues because it was hard to coordinate. So that was a long answer, but yes, some text, but generally no.
So nothing you do in Paperspace, like if you generate your name, you can't do that in model space.
Sorry, say that you can't do that in model space?
So if you because you just did your name on Paperspace,
yep.
If you go to model space,
it's
you can't do it.
Yep, it's not there. Yep, so they're not associated. Yep, exactly. Yep. The whole text thing will start making sense eventually, right? This is a way better system than it used to be. Let me just assure you of that. Okay. All right, so the text question, did we have one more question before we get going on this? No? Okay. Let's see. So let's talk about getting our final projects going then. Oh boy. We are going to get our master project together, and then I want to draw an exterior elevation just so you kind of know how to go about doing that. So, okay. Now, sorry, before I get going on that, were you guys able to start your title blocks? No? You haven't started it yet? Okay. That's right. Did you got my email about the labs being open Saturday? Oh, good. Okay. They'll be open again this Saturday as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. So labs will be open Saturday from 9 to 3, is that what I had said? Okay, from 9 to 3.
Oh, 9 to 3.
Yep. All right. So maybe we'll do this then. Maybe I'll do what I wanted to plan to do today, and then we'll do title blocks next time. We'll get going. We'll get the floor plan drawn, and then we'll get your title blocks into paper space. Well, let's see how it goes today. We'll see how it goes today. All right. So final project. Let me get going here. I'm going to create a new folder, and I think I actually already have one. Okay. So I have a folder on my desktop generated here, and it's called Final Project. Okay, and what I want to do today, the first task I want to accomplish is I want to help you set up the structure, the file structure of your final drawing, all right? So that when you start drawing all of the individual pieces, it'll all be structured correctly and will work, okay? So this is a pretty big part of the final points portion of your grade, so I look at this specifically, making sure that you've XREF'd everything together and that it's all working, okay? All right, so let's open up AutoCAD here. I don't know why I closed it. Okay, and what we need to do is we need to generate the actual drawing files for the individual drawings. So, let me open up your final project here too, and we'll just kind of follow along with that. Oh. Okay, push that. All right. Okay. Oh, let's see here. 1310. Assignments. You guys missed some of these wonderful ones, like the ruler and the offset. Those are pretty fancy assignments you guys missed. Lucky, lucky. I know, right? Okay, so we have the drawings here, and I'm just going to download the instructions. I think this will work out good. We'll just do a few things every class for the next couple of classes. That'll work out great. Okay, so I'm going to go down to downloads and okay. Oh, good. They're on the same page there. All right, so here's number 1. Draw each of the supply drawings as separate drawing files. You must draw portions of every drawing in the packet supplied to get full credit on the project. It is estimated that it will take at least 20 to 40 hours to complete. I think yours will still be a good amount of time, but not quite as long because we don't have all of the drawings to complete. So this first portion where it talks about creating all of our separate drawing files, this is what we're going to do today. All right, so we're going to create all of our separate drawing files, and then we are going to create one master file that we're going to XREF all of those into, okay? So I'm going to open up my template file, right? And mine's just going to be blank. Oh, yep.
I was just going to ask, I got those made last time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And to open that up, do I open up the main file or the individual file?
So when you want to draw something, you're going to open up the individual file. Yes. Okay. And then when you want to annotate and print, you're going to open up the master file and do that kind of stuff. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to open up my template file. And if you have your template file, that's what you would open up, right? And of course, if I don't have one here, but this would contain all of your dimension styles, text styles, all of your page setups, all of your layers, all of that good stuff, right? So the first thing that I need to do is I need to generate drawing files for each of the individual drawings that I am going to generate, all right? And what that means is we have a site plan, and we're not doing those. We have a first floor plan. We're not doing the second floor plan. We have an elevation. We have, not that. And then we have this file where you will have essentially this interior elevation here. This can be in the floor plan file because it's really just kind of a piece of the floor plan, right? It's an identical copy, just at a larger scale. So let's see, the first thing we need to do is create a drawing file for your site plan. Okay, so I'm going to open up my template file, and I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to go to my Final Project folder here, Click, click. And I'm going to name this one X-Site Plan. Okay, save. And for me, you know, I like to do groups of things all at once, but for the sake of actually having something in this file, I'm just going to draw a little something, okay, so that we can sort of identify it. So we'll have it look like that, like that, like that, like that. I'll use my arc against my better judgment. Ooh, see, it's bad. Okay, there's our site plan, okay? There's our site plan. So within the site plan file, I would draw my site plan. So you would draw this, you would draw the curve table, right? And this little north arrow, you'd have all that, okay? Within these drawing files, you're just going to draw in model space. We are not going to print from paper space in any of these files. That's going to be done in the master file. You're going to print exclusively from the master file, all right? So these are only meant for drawing. So I'm going to close that out and save it. Yes. All right, so if I look in my file structure here, go to my final project, I have my site plan drawing, okay? The next thing I'm going to create a file for will be my first level floor plan. So I'm going to reopen my template file, right? File, save as. I'm going to call this one X-Floor Plan 01. Save. Okay, so this file is where I would draw my first floor plan, and I'm only going to draw my first floor plan in model space here. So you're going to draw everything here, and you're going to draw everything here as well. So, and I'll just draw something again for the sake of just having something in the drawing. I'm going to just draw this so I know that's the floor plan file. Okay, I would save that and close it out. And now I have two files. I could. I'm just trying to keep it real cut and dry, right? We open one, we create it, we close it, we save it, right? Yep. But I could definitely do that. All right. So next thing I need to do is I need to create a file for my exterior elevation. So I'm going to open up my template file again. Oh, that was my floor plan. I wasn't paying attention. My template file. File, save as, and we'll call this one X-exterior elevation. Save. Okay, and I'm just gonna, again, I'll just draw something for the sake of having something in here. Here we go. Maybe does that look like the elevation? No, it does not. We'll pretend. Okay, there's our elevation. Okay, save, close it out, and we're done with that one. We're going to have one more that we're going to create, and we'll call this the interior elevation. All right, so start my drawing here. File, save as, X-interior elevation, save. Okay, so now my file structure looks like this. And I can sort these, of course, by type, date modified, name. I'm going to sort these by type so I can just see all my little files nice and neat, right? So my DWG files are here, all my BAKs are up here. Don't delete them, even though you're tempted to. So I have my 4 drawing files, all right? And I want to reiterate, because I think there's a confusion here at times when you're new at this. There's a confusion that, well, I haven't really done anything in these files. There's nothing in them, right? So what good are they? Well, the whole idea behind the system is that you can generate these files, you can combine them into the proper file structure, and then you can open them individually at any time, you know, put drawings in them, create drawings in them, and it will update in that master file, right? So it doesn't matter that you don't have anything in them yet. Create them, get the file structure going, and then go back and draw in each individual file, okay? Okay, now it's time for me to create a master file, all right? So I'm going to generate a master file. I'm going to close out my interior. Oh, I didn't put anything in my interior elevation file. Let me do that real quick. So it'll look like that.
Shelly, when I open it on the computer, the plans, I don't have the backup.
So you have to save it before a backup file will generate. So if you have them open, you have to hit save, and when you hit save, a backup file will generate. Yep. All right, so I have my files here. Now it's time for me to create my master file, right? And we're going to do that next. Now, there's really no difference between any of these files, right? These are all DWG files. There's drawing going, on in them. And I'm going to create the master file, and it's going to be another DWG file, right? So it's not different in format. The difference between the master file and these other ones that we're creating here is that one is going to be where you compile all of your drawings, and the rest are going to be where you actually do your drawing, okay? But the files have the same extension. Yep.
Question, you have to have the same kind of like layers and stuff in the master file for it all to show up when you go to print it, or do you just keep that in the individual file?
If you're going to be doing a lot of drawing in the master file, you can have those layers in there. That's fine, right? It doesn't hurt anything. But really, you're going to be doing all the work in your individual files. So you'll have all the layers in those individual files.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect it being printed. It's like, I
Nope.
don't recognize this layer. Okay.
Nope, because they're all kind of self-contained. They're just being attached to that master file. So they're these individual self-contained files. So all their layers still read. They still have all the layers they need. They still print just fine. Yep. All right, so I'm going to click on New Drawing again. And I'm going to File, Save As. And we're going to call this Final Project. Okay, and I'm going to hit Save. So now when I look in my file structure here, I have all of my drawing files, and then I have this master file that I'm going to XREF all of these base files into. All right. I have my final project open, okay, and I want to clarify. We do our drawing in these individual files. We then compile them into this one final project file, and this is where we print from, right? So you don't need to set up paper space in these files, but you do have to set it up in this file. Okay, so now the XREFing begins. Okay, so I'm going to maximize my screen here. So I'm going to type XR enter, and I'm going to click on this little down arrow and choose Attach Drawing. Okay, I'm going to go to my desktop, which is where my final project is located, and I'm just going to... Oh, I typed XR, and the XREF tool palette popped up. Yep. If you can also go through Insert, and you can go to Attach Reference through here.
My computer was slow. I hit XR and nothing happened.
Nothing happened just yet.
Super slow.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're good. So I click on this down arrow, and I click on Attach Drawing, and there they all are. Okay, so I'm going to click on, we'll just start maybe from the beginning. We'll click on the site plan. I'm going to hit Open, and we're going to choose a no path. All of this actually looks pretty good. I'm going to hit OK. Nothing happened right. I'm going to double click my middle roller to zoom extents, and there's my site plan.
Did you choose no path or relative path?
No path.
Okay.
Yep. So now I can see that within my final project file, I have this x-site plan file. It's attached, right? It looks like it's a little drawing that's paper clipped, and everything seems to be working pretty well.
Mine didn't attach.
Does it show, is there anything in it? So do you see something like this? You don't see that? Real quick.
So just try again?
Yep.
No path, right?
Right, and okay. Oh, so you have it, so it's asking for a insertion point. So just click.
Just click?
Yep,
Oh.
and it inserted it. Let me show you that.
Oh.
I'll show you where that is. So Emma had her set so that so she has her set so that when she attaches a drawing, I'll do the floor plan next. I'll redo this, of course. She has this checked, specify on screen. Okay, so let me show you what that does. I'm going to hit escape real quick, but I'll show you what that does. Okay, so I have my site plan here. Looks great, right? One thing I want to caution you about with XREFs is that when they are attached to your drawing, they essentially attach and they drop onto the current layer. All right, so one pretty common thing that happens with drawings like this is that if they are dropped onto a viewport layer, guess what happens with those XREF drawings? They don't print. Yep. So it doesn't kind of mess with the integrity. It doesn't change the layers.
That just brings me to the question, if we've drawn everything in another layer, and then when it all attaches into this one on a completely different layer, do
Right.
you lose your layering?
No, you don't. The only thing that really, so they're all self-contained files. I usually like to create a layer that's called XREF, and I drop them on the XREF layer. It doesn't assume the layer properties of that layer, it just kind of lives on it, right? So the only thing that will affect it really is the visibility. So if you can turn it on and off, and you can make it non-printable, right? But everything else, it maintains its own integrity.
I attached mine, but it's like this weird shape came out.
Is it the shape that's drawn in your file?
I didn't draw anything on the file, so I don't know why this came out.
So it appears as if the file that you started with, right, for X-Site Plan, did you start it from a file that was on CAD Common?
I think I opened I'm pretty sure I opened the window.
So there's something in that old file. That's the problem. So it says assignment layer. So if you go back, so whatever file you started that with, there was stuff in it essentially. Which is fine because you can just open that up and delete it.
Right, okay.
That's
So I
what
can
it's
just
showing
delete this and that should be fine.
Yes, but it's in that you have to do it in the base file. The one that's called, X-Site Plan or whatever. And it's probably not showing up in there because there's something frozen.
So I need to just
Turn that layer 0 on. And turn up, yep, see, it's all in there. Yep, so you just have to delete that stuff out.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. All right. So, to be safe, you may want to create a layer that's called XREF layer and just drop your XREFs on there, right? Because I think you just forget, you forget. You leave here, you go home and you work, everything's great, you XREF everything together, looks wonderful, and then all of a sudden nothing prints, right? And you panic. Of course, like, where is it? I don't know what's happening. And it's as simple as the XREF is on a non-printable layer, okay? So just pay attention to that. All right, so we have our site plan here. Let's attach our floor plan. So I click on attach, drawing, I'm gonna go to my floor plan, I'm gonna hit open. And what Emma did is she has insertion point checked. It's not right or wrong, it's just another step, right? So if I click on specify on screen an insertion point, and I choose no path and I hit okay, instead of just dropping into model space anywhere, it's going to ask you where you want it to go. So that might not be a bad idea in the case of adding a second drawing, because then you can place it, so it doesn't come in and rest right over the top of your site plan. So I'll just move it over here and I'll click, and when I do that, it places that floor plan drawing. Okay. All right, let's go to our next one. I'm going to click attach drawing. Let's do our exterior elevation. Open. No path. Okay. And we'll place that one right there. Click. Okay. We have one more to go, so I click on attach drawing. We're going to click on interior elevation. Open. Okay. And click. So the idea is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different XREFs in this master file, right? So essentially, you're taking all those drawings that you generated and you're viewing them in this one file, okay? So general practice, there's essentially 2 ways you're going to go about it when you work in an office. You're going to, for I would say maybe smaller projects, to make it easier, you will use this system where you have one master file, you have separate drawing files, you XREF them into one file, right? And what's easier about that? What's easier about that is that now I can create tabs down here and I can print 4 or 5 different sheets from one file, right? That makes it easy. But the problem with that is you can't maybe get past about 10 different tabs before your drawing starts getting bogged down, right? And then you're risking corruption or things happening with your file, and you just don't want to lose work, right? So we're not going to do that. So with a larger project, like maybe a commercial project, what you'd want to do is what we did when we met last, right? You'll create all the base files, the drawing files, and then you'll create sheet files, individual sheet files, right? And you'll XREF individual files into the sheet files. Okay, so just depends on what type of project you're working on. All right, so we've XREF'd all of our files in here, and I can close out my final project, save it, and right, we see what it looks like. Now what's nice about this system is that I can choose open file, I can go to my site plan now, I can hit open, and I can add work to it. So I can continue to draw lines, right, however we want these to look. This is a wonderful little site plan.
Because I have a little yellow sign with an exclamation point by my XREF.
Yes. We'll go over that. Yes, let's go over that. Okay, so I've done some work on my site plan, right? So the idea is that you can construct the file and then go back and work, right? So I can go in, I can draw the rest of my site plan, finish it up, and I'm going to close it out and I'm going to save it. Okay. This is why I'm opening and closing the thing, like to make it simple, right? Because what's happening with your file, Emma, is that when I reopen Final Project, right, when I close out of this project and I open my base file and make changes, when I reopen this Final Project, that's automatically updated, right? We see those changes in there. But if I were to have this file open at the same time, let's just open up a new one. At the same time that I have, for example, my site plan open, right? And I'm going to add some more line work. We're going to do some stuff here, right? It's wonderful. Oh, you know what? That's going to interfere with the rest of my drawings. Making it too large, knowing that it's going to do all of that stuff outside of there. So we'll just add. All right, we'll add some circles here. There we go. Okay. So I hit save, and immediately what happens in my final project is AutoCAD knows that a change has been made, but it's telling you that you're not viewing the most current information, essentially. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to either choose this refresh button, or I'm going to right click and I'm going to reload it, and magically all of that new information appears. So that's what's going to happen when you or somebody else has that XREF open and it's attached to any other file. All right, so I've got my, I wanted to make it a point that you can construct this file with no work done, right? And go back and do more work. So I'm going to close that out. I'm now just in my final project file here, and this is the file that I'm going to use to print from. All right, so really my first step is to generate the file. Step 2 is to XREF my base files in here, right, the external references. The third step is to get ready to print these things, and then really just 4-step finish everything. Like finish your drawing, get everything done, right? It's easy to say, right? So the next thing I need to do is I need to set up a tab to print each one of these 4 drawings, all right? So that will involve going to a layout tab, making sure the page is the right size. We're going to add a title block to that page, so maybe we'll do title blocks today. We're going to add a title block to that page, and then we're going to get things ready to print. All right. So I'm going to go to my layout here. I'm going to right click on it, and the first thing I'm going to do is I think rename it. Okay, and again I'm in my final project file, so I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it site plan. Okay. I have a second tab here, so while I'm here I'm just going to right click, rename, and we'll call this floor plan 01. Okay, and I'm going to go to I'm going to create a new layout and I'm going to rename that. Do you see how I did that? I hit the plus sign. New layout, right click, rename, and we'll call this exterior elevation. There we go. My final layout, right click, rename. We'll call this one interior elevation. Okay. Now I've created all of the tabs. Now it's time for me to make sure all the pages on those tabs are the right size. Okay, then we'll add the title blocks. I think we'll go over title blocks today. Then we'll get our drawings kind of centered on our pages. So site plan. I think I'm going to create a page layout because I have 4 pages I have to apply it to. And I have to do something more than twice. I usually create a setting for it, right? So I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose Page Setup Manager. And I'm going to create a new page setup, and I'm going to call this 11 by 17 PDF. Okay. And I'm going to choose my printer, right? And if you're working on your laptop, then you're probably okay. But if you're working on this computer, just know that your printer might be different on your home computer, right? If you don't have Adobe. I'm going to choose my 11 by 17. And I'm going to choose Extents, center the plot, and we're going to choose LaserJet CTB, and we want these landscape. So we're going to leave that alone. Okay. So I'm going to hit OK. And now I have that page setup generated in this file. So I'm going to click on it and hit Set Current, Close, and you notice my page size jumped. All right. What's really nice about that is when I go to print, Control P, you see that that page setup has assigned all of the correct plot settings in here, which is really great, right? All right, so now I'm going to go to Floor Plan, right click, Page Setup Manager, 11 by 17 PDF, Set Current, Close. Okay. I'm going to look at something real quick. I think...
Activate previous layout?
Yeah, you could do that too. You could do that too, yes. And I was just thinking, I think you can do this in the print dialog box as well, right? So you could do that, or you could choose like 11 by 17 PDF. Hit OK. Oh, nope. Nope, I don't actually want to print. Let's see, 11 by 17 PDF. Apply to layout. There we go. Right click. We've got... oh, there we go. Let's see. Where does it say that now? Page setup, apply previous. Is that what you guys are asking through here?
No, if you right click on it, it says activate previous layout, but it doesn't work. It just takes you to the
Oh.
previous screen. I tried it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if you click that, it'll take you
To the previous
layout.
layout.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So Control P. We've got this 11 by 17. Apply. And I'm going to hit OK. Nope, I don't want to. Every time, right? Every time. Okay. So now I have my page setups generated. So I've got my site plan, right? Floor plan, exterior elevation, interior elevation set up, right? Reminding you that I didn't do this in the individual files. I only did it here, right? Because we want to print from one place. I don't want to have to open up every single file if I don't need to, right? Without knowing another system to print. I don't want to have to do that. I want to do it all in one place. So here, now it's time for me to set up my pages, okay? And I'm going to, number one, make sure that I have a viewport layer in here. You're going to notice all our nice, neat XREF layers, right? Wonderfully living in there. Click on New, Viewport.
That's in model space that you clicked into to do that, or you not?
You can do it anywhere. Layers are not specific to model or paper space, so you can do that anywhere and it will generate them. Yep.
You want to make that one unprintable, obviously, right?
Exactly, yep. Here you go. So viewport layer. I'm going to close that layer dialog box out. I'm going to grab my viewport and drop it on my non-printable layer. So, you know, knowing that I'm probably going to have to put a title block on here, there's my viewport layer. I'm going to click in there, and I'm just going to kind of start getting my drawing going, right?
I have one more quick question. So
Yeah.
you were saying since on my computer, my printer's different, I was doing PDF or DWG to PDF.
Right.
DWG to PDF.
Uh-huh.
My margins are different on my 11 by 17. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Yep.
Okay, yours look really thin and mine look
Yours
a
are
lot
extended.
bigger on mine.
Yep, so when you use the DWG to PDF, you'll have extended margins. And that will be something you'll see from printer to printer. The margins just might be slightly different.
Like that wouldn't affect our grade, or in
No.
the professional world that wouldn't look bad? Or
No, I mean, I think professionally when you go work somewhere, they already have a system set up. So you're kind of just working within their system, right?
So it'll follow their standard.
Exactly. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got our site plan here. We're going to kind of scale it. I have no idea what size this is, so hopefully we get... Nope. They're kind of small, obviously, so 3/4. Maybe? No, these are small. Okay, so now I've kind of got my site plan in view, right, where it needs to go. We'll do viewport, or we'll do a title block next. Okay, so I go to my floor plan, same thing, right? I drop my viewport onto a non-printable layer, and I sort of click. I'm just clicking on it and dragging it, trying to put it where it needs to be. And we'll do the same thing. Let's see. Okay.
You want to fill up the full page with the viewport?
Well, you want it, so we're going to have a title block over here. So we have to think about that. And then you're going to have dimensions and different notes around it. So this is probably a pretty good amount of space.
Just as long as it fits the page.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So next thing is my elevation, right? Click, click. I'll grab the viewport, make sure that it's on a non-printable layer. And then I'm going to scale it again here. Click, click, move it in, but I don't roll my roller, right? Because if I roll my roller, it will break the scale. Click, click, drag it out. Oop. There we go. Oop, one little bit more. There we go. And our final one over here, the interior elevation. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. So viewport. The nice thing about doing things in kind of blocks too is that you don't forget, right? If I were to have set this up and then went back into model space and did some drawing or whatever, right? Then I'd be like, oh, I need to do that one. Did I forget to put the viewport on a printable layer? Did I, you know, you sort of get into a flow when you do kind of the same thing, the same workflow over and over and over again in a project, getting it set up. So you remember to create the page setup, you remember to apply it, you remember to add the non-printable viewport, you remember the scale of everything, right? Because you're kind of doing it in sequence. So that's why I kind of like to do things all at once as well. So I'll grab that. It is on viewport. I'm going to take this to, oop, a little too big. All right, there we go. All right, so I have all my pages set up. We've actually done a lot today, right? We've created our master file. We've created all of our drawing files. We've XREF'd all of our drawing files into our master file. We have created 4 different tabs that we're going to print from. We've added our viewports to those tabs on a non-printable layer. We've set our pages up so they're the right size to print, right? So we've done all of that. I want to talk about the title block. Let me, let's draw a title block right now. Okay. There we go. But before we do that, I'm just going to take a quick break. That's okay. 5-minute break. All right, I'll be right back.
I didn't, I guess I wasn't paying attention when she did it in the printing section. She did the right click on, so hit cancel, and then right click, oh, yeah, right. So that's your new one, right, 11 by 17?
Yeah. I didn't find it. I've done it on both of these.
Okay, so then go to the, so.
But it shows that
Floor
there's
plan and
still-
site plan, so you need to go to.
Oh, it's still showing that it's right. And it's not
Hit
saved.
set current, to hit the 11 by 17, this one here, set current. And then you should hit close, and it should change it to, that's weird, it didn't.
Yeah. And it changed the way. Wait,
Sorry, man, no problem. Like the third time I've done this, I start busting up with some homework. I don't notice she changes the date, so I stayed up until like, thought I was turning it in late. I stayed up like 1 in the morning last Thursday or whatever, and turned in everything we had, so I thought it was due then. I was like, shit, I'm an hour late. And then I turned it in, it's like, oh, not due till the 23rd. So I swear, she classes I needed for some reason in the spring, or yeah, not in the spring, but they're offering in the summer. I don't know why they would offer something in the spring.
In the architecture program, there's a lot of them like that.
Is it?
Like advanced AutoCAD classes, it's not offered in the fall.
That's so weird.
It's only in the spring. The whole something like that.
Shut up. I don't have to worry about going to UVU after doing some all over.
Is that sound?
Yeah. Cheapest alternative for me.
Yeah. To drive?
I may even, well, I live in Bluffdale, so I'm like
Oh, okay.
6-ish from here to there. And
Yeah, it's not
I'm
bad.
out there. I'm gonna do as many. I'll still be going here, even while I'm going to UVU. So I'm gonna do as many classes that they require here because it's cheaper.
And work?
Right now I'm not working, so I'm kind of I'm like trying to start my own business, so it's kind of I've got a lot of free time right now.
Very nice.
It's nice right now. In 2 or 3 months I might be in trouble.
Run out of money.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Well, the page setup manager, when we're doing that,
Uh-huh.
so I've done that. If I hit OK, it's going to put the PDF in. How is it to get it to apply it, to stretch it out like you had yours?
Do the set current.
Well, you are in the page setup manager right now, right?
Yeah.
So if you hit OK, it should just OK. Yeah.
Okay, so
But
then
it's-
print it. Okay.
Right. So now you hit set current. You click on the one you just created.
Okay. So that one.
Set current.
Site.
That's the bottom one. Set current. But I think that click on that again.
Which one? This one?
Yeah. And do modify because I don't think you chose 11 by 17.
No, I got the wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
But as long as I hit OK, then it'll apply. Okay.
Huh? Yep.
I'll go through really quick. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's add some title blocks. Okay. So we briefly went over title blocks last time. And I'll just create one in the final project, right? That'll be easy enough. Okay, so well, I was just thinking it'll just be all self-contained. It'll be easily accessible for you guys, right? Okay. So let's create a title block. And to remind you what the title block looks like, let's look at our final project. We're going to generate one that looks like this, essentially, okay? And so I'm going to guess on the dimensions just to get a drawing out there. But you could print these 11 by 17 and actually use your ruler and measure how big everything is on here, right? Knowing that if you use the DWG to PDF, you have to make it slightly smaller so that it fits on your page and doesn't get cut off, okay? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to create my title block as a W block. Oops.
So just to find the dimensions for the title block, is it just listed on the assignment?
I don't know if it's in the assignment actually. I think you can just make it an inch smaller. So instead of 11 by 17, do it 10 by 16.
Oh, okay.
And that should be okay.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to create my title block and it's going to be a W block and I'm in my final project file, although because I'm making a W block, it doesn't really matter which file I'm in, right? Because I can access the W block anywhere. So I'm going to come over to Home, Layers, and I want to make sure that if I had accidentally created it on Viewport, right? So I'm going to change to Layer 0, and I'm going to draw my title block. So I'm going to use line, and I'm going to draw the outline of this. So click, and we'll do it 10 inches by 16, so it's an inch smaller around the entire thing. And let's see if we can stumble through getting the measure tool to work again. Now I don't even remember where it was. It's under View? No. Measure. There we go. And we had to we have to right click on somewhere. Let's see. I think this one though, we want actual size because we're going to measure the title block, and the title block's 1:1 here. Oop.
Is there a way to add, like, because I'm having a hard time adding a layer on the final project. It won't let me.
Are you, let's look real quick. You shouldn't. It should just be just like any other drawing. Layer properties. Oh, pull your, I think, okay, so grab that little tab and just pull undock the dialog box.
Like that? Or?
Let me see this real quick. I kind of think that maybe you have. Oh boy, you've got something. This is it. Oh boy.
Because it wasn't doing that like a second ago, and then.
I think you're having something visual happening here.
Yeah.
You may need to turn your AutoCAD off and reboot and see what happens.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good.
That's something graphic.
Okay.
Okay. So I've just drawn the outline. I'm over here in my PDF, and I'm just going to measure the width of this. So from there to there, it's about 1.25 inches. So about 1 1/4. There you go. That's pretty helpful, right? So I can offset, enter, 1.25, enter. Close that. Click, click. All right, so I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to use my measuring tool and measure this from there to there. That is 1 inch. Okay, and again, so as I'm measuring the title block, right, that is sort of, you have to think about it in terms of, that's a 1:1 scale item, right? The drawing is not 1:1 scale. It's been scaled down so that, 1/2 inch is equal to 1 foot in real life. So you have to change the scale factor when you're measuring the drawing, but the title block is 1:1. So that is 1 inch tall there. So I'm going to use offset again. So offset, and I'm going to choose 1 inch, enter, click, click. Okay, I need to trim that off. TR, enter, enter, click. All right, let's do a little more measuring. So from here to there. That is 2.5, about 2. I'm gonna round up, so about 2.5 inches. Offset 2.5 inches. Enter, click, and then we've got another one. Measuring tool. So click down to there. 4.3. We'll do 4.5 inches. So O for offset, enter, 4.5, enter, click, click. And over here, we just have what's left over. Okay. So I'm going to next add the information. All right. So we talked a little bit about this last time, but there's going to be some attributes in our title block. Okay. There are going to be actual titles that are dumb text that never change. And then there are going to be attributes that you want to input information. Okay, so things like sheet number, just the actual title itself, that won't ever change, right? But this text that says A103, that will change. So this can be just dumb text, and this right here can be an attribute, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am going to... Sorry, let me think about this real quick here. We're going to create a block out of this. I'm going to go to annotate, and I'm going to create a new text style. And I'm going to have to do this. This is, I'm going to have to create a new text style. And I'm going to call this title block text style. And I'm not going to make it annotative because the title block is always going to go in paper space. Sorry, this is a little confusing. The title block is always going to go into paper space, so it's always going to be 1:1 scale. So we don't need it to flex and to move, right? And then we're going to create a block out of it, and we don't need our block to flex and to move. So I'm going to just change the font to whatever we want it to be. I'm going to change it to City Blueprint just so we can see we've changed it. Apply that. maybe make that 0.8, apply that, set current, and I'm going to close that. So I just created a text style that's specific for to the title block, okay? Now I need to add the text and I need to add the attributes. So I'm not going to do every single one, but I'll do a few just so that it makes sense. So I'll do sheet number. Okay, now I'm going to click on single line text, and I want this to be justified, so I click on justify. I want this to be middle center, and I'm going to click on the middle center of this right here because I want this text centered on that space, knowing that I'm going to have to move it down a tiny bit. Okay, click. It's going to ask me the height of that text, and this text is going to be, I'm going to make up a height. If that's an inch, maybe that height is 1/8 of an inch. So, sheet number. Okay, I made this text 1/8 of an inch tall. I was just guessing, right? You can measure it with a ruler and see how tall all this text is, right? Click on it. M for move. I'm just going to move it down where it needs to go. Sheet number.
How tall did you make?
1/8 of an inch. This text is 1/8 of an inch. So next thing, it appears as if this text for name, class, school is the same height as sheet number, right? So I could click on this, CO, copy, enter, bless you. Copy it up, right? And I'm going to rotate it so that it's in the right orientation for here. RO, enter. Select the objects, enter. Click a base point. See how it wants to rotate around? Click. M for move. Move it into place, right? Now, I think maybe you're starting to get a sense of, in AutoCAD, things don't always happen in one move, right? So I created the text and then I had to move it. I copied the text and I had to rotate it and then I had to move it, right? So things don't always kind of happen all at once, you know, in one fell swoop. CO, copy, enter, right? We can copy some of this down. You're like, hey, it says the same thing. It does, but we can change it. So I'm going to change this text. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to type NAME : enter. And we'll call this class, enter. Click, school, enter. So now I can place those attributes there. Right, while I'm at it, I might as well do the sheet title. So grab that, CO, enter, copy, click. I'm going to turn F8 on so it's straight, and I'm going to move it, and I'm going to use M2P to get it right in between these two bars here. Shift right click, M2P. Ooh, I need my, oh, my snaps are my snaps off? Yes, there they are. Okay, 1 perpendicular, 2 perpendicular, and it centered it. So we'll double click on that. We'll call that one sheet title. I guess while we're at it, right? Scale and date. And I want my scale and my date to be in the same spot as name and school. So I'm going to click on name, click on school, CO, copy, enter. Click this corner here as my base point so that when I click this corner up here, click, those titles go in the exact same spot down there. Click, click, scale, enter. Click, date, enter, and we have the basics of our title block done, okay? So the next thing we need to do is add the attributes. So I'm going to add an attribute, A103. And I need to get it centered in here, which I think I could probably use polar tracking to get that, but I need to add my attributes now. So insert, define attributes. And we will make this one, let's see, sheet number, A dash could be our default. This one will be middle center. Most of them are middle center. Title block, text, And instead of an 1/8, this looks like it's about double. Maybe it's, let's see. Doesn't look like it's quite a quarter. We'll try a quarter. Anyway, okay, so it's 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to hit OK. Oh boy, I should have put a marker because I can't hit the midpoint of that line. It's okay. Click. So sheet number goes there. Okay. Well, maybe I'll do more than 1 or 2 of these, right? All right. Here's a little trick. I'm going to, it's not really a trick, but I'm going to come down here to my object snaps, and knowing what I'm about to do, I'm going to make sure my insertion is turned on here. Okay. And I'm going to do that because I know I'm going to create an attribute, and I want it to line up with the name, class, and school. Name, class, and school, right? And each of these pieces of text has an insertion point associated with it, okay? And so when I place my attribute, I can use the insertion point snap to kind of line up those attributes, okay? Which is what I'll do. And if I can't get them to quite line up, I'll move it after the fact. I'll show you how to do that, okay? So for name, we're going to define an attribute. This is going to be name, name, name. This justification, however, is not going to be middle center. It's going to be left justified, right? Because we want it to go from here, that direction. Left title block 1/4 inch. Ooh, not 1/4 inch. That's going to be an 1/8 inch. Okay. So, ooh, its insertion point is the middle center. All right, I'm going to have to move this around a little bit, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this is killing me. I want to get it exactly in the same spot as that one, but we'll do the best we can. Okay, name. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to RO, enter. I'm going to move it. And I'm hopefully going to be able to get it in the exact same spot because I don't like it when things aren't in the exact same spot. Oh, there we go. Zooming way in there. Close enough, I guess. Okay, M for move. Turn my ortho on, F8, so it goes straight. And I'm going to place it right there. Okay. I'm probably going to have to do the same thing with class and with school. So we'll do class, we'll do school. So the class will be class. And the nice thing about this one, actually, this is going to be well, I mean, it could change, but this is one of those where you could maybe make it a constant attribute because it wouldn't change for this class, although if you use this title block for anything else, it might. So I'm not going to check constant, but you could make this a constant, you know, attribute. Okay, so the default, I could type in Arch 1310. That could be my default, so I don't have to retype it. We'll do left justification, title block 1/8 inch, hit OK. And hopefully I can align that somewhat. Click, RO, rotate, enter. Ooh, there we go. M for move. See, I'm going to have to align this one again. This is killing me. I like things to be in the identical spot. M for move. See, I snapped the insertion point. Click. I want it to go right there. Click. Okay, I have one more to do here. School. Define an attribute. And maybe we'll do SLCC. Left title block 1/8 inch looks good. Okay. Click. Click on it. RO, enter. Click. Rotate it. Okay, I'm going to M for move, and I'm going to move again this into the exact spot. Click. M for move. I'm going to turn my ortho on, F8, so it goes straight. And I'm going to align with that insertion point above there. Click. I'm going to move these out just a little bit. M for move because that school is a little close. There we go. All right, so name, class, school. I'll do this middle one, and then I'll let you guys do these two on your own. East elevation here. So I'm gonna create this, and I'm going to draw a line down the center of this field here, so I can get the middle center of that when I create my attribute, knowing that I'll have to delete it when I'm done. Okay. So I'm going to click on define attribute again. This will be drawing name. We'll leave that blank. Okay. This one's going to be middle center again. And title block. This one's going to be 1/4 inch tall. Okay. And the midpoint is right there. Click, but I have to rotate it. RO, enter. Grab the midpoint and rotate it. Notice my ortho's on, so it perfectly rotates straight. Okay. So you all would do this an attribute for the scale and an attribute for date, but I'm going to stop here. My title block looks really good. It's an inch smaller than the 11 by 17, so it's 10 by 16, right? I drew everything on layer 0, and I've added my attributes and text. So at this point, having added those final ones, which you guys will do, I'm going to W block this. W block. Enter. So I choose my pick point. My pick point aids me in placing the title block. So I usually pick this bottom corner. Click. Select your objects. Enter. And save it. So I'm going to save this. I think this one is one of those where you could save it in your block library, but because we're working on our final project, I might just save it in my final project folder so I have it. So landscape. Save. I hit OK. And the drawing name, let's say we'll do one for the site plan. The school, SLCC. The class, Arch 1310. My name, sheet number A-101. That's wrong for site plan, but anyway. Okay. And then it nicely fills in all of that information, right? And for studios that are using AutoCAD, there's one of two ways they deal with title blocks, right? They use title blocks as a block, and they have attributes built in, okay? Or they will use the title block as an XREF, okay? They will make the XREF for that specific project, the title block as an XREF for that specific project, and use it on every sheet. With that, because there is information in an XREF they'll have to change, they put an inherent block in the title block, XREF, and then that allows you to change information when it's an XREF. We'll just leave it at that. So you'll see it two different ways, used two different ways. All right, so my title block looks wonderful. I'm going to delete it out of model space. All right, I drew it in model space, but it's not going to be used in model space. All right, but I want to show you if I go to insert, it is there. All right, and if I wanted to use it in a different drawing, I could go to insert, more options, browse, and I could go to, I saved this one in my final project, go to final project, and there it is for use. Okay. All right, so time for me to use my title block. The way that we're going to, did you just see that, Emma, how those disappeared? I think there's some graphic issues going on here. Did it work when, did you reboot, or did you just?
I had to reboot it.
Okay.
It's fine now.
It's fine now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, are you over there suffering? Is that your layer dialog box? All right, so we have our drawings here. Everything looks good. The way that we're going to use our title block is in paper space, all right? So I'm going to go over here to my layout tab. This will be nice. You guys can follow this video exactly when you're compiling your final projects. And I'm going to go to insert. I'm going to click on title block, and it pops right in, right? So I'm going to click and place it. And this, we'll type C101, SLCC, Arch. Oh, drawing name is not. And we'll see 101. Okay. So I dropped that in there. Look, it's wonderful, it's right there. Now, here's the thing about title blocks, right? The question I always get is, how do I get this perfectly centered on this piece of paper, all right? And the answer is there is a way. It's a little bit of an advanced way, so we're not going to worry about it. We're not going to worry about it because as long as my viewport is within my title block, when I choose center the plot in my plot dialog box, as long as that title block lives within the margins of that page, it doesn't matter exactly where it's at, because AutoCAD is going to automatically take that title block, the extent of that title block, and center it on your page, okay? So we're kind of saying, bypassing kind of the advanced portion of getting your title block in the exact same spot, which is building in an insertion point of 0, 0, 0, which we're not going to do, and we're going to choose center the plot and not worry about it, okay? So I'm going to choose center the plot, and that will just basically take this and center it on the page along with your drawing. All of your nice information is in there, right? And you have a layout. I'm going to go to my floor plan, and I'm going to go to Insert, Title Block, and click. So same thing here. This is my floor plan 01, SLCC arch, and this will be A101. Okay, looks good, right? So now all the information is inherent. What's nice about it is it's built into that block, so if you move things, you have to move the text and realign it. It's a little bit of work up front, obviously, right? But once you have it done, it's done, and you don't have to worry about it again. I go to my exterior elevation, and I insert my block again. Click. This is the A201. Looks good. And we have one final. One thing you'll want to watch, make sure you watch, is that your viewports do stay inside your title block lines, right? Because AutoCAD does center this title block. It centers the drawing according to kind of the extent of the drawing. And if the title block is the extent, your title block, it's nicely centered. If your viewports are popping out a little, it counts that and it will uncenter it, or it won't be centered. Okay, one more. It looks like it's hiding here. Interior elevation. Insert, title block. Here we go. One final one. This is the A401. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm going to save my drawing. Make sure you're constantly saving because things can and do go wrong. But essentially what I've done now, right? You laugh. Has something already gone wrong?
Like every time I do homework.
Right? I feel you.
I never remember to save.
And then something happens. You're like, why didn't I save this time?
Yep.
Right?
Then I just like, all right, I guess I'm skipping points on this.
Shoot.
Trial and error.
That's it. I mean,
Purely this.
I only laugh because I've been there, right? It has happened to everybody. So I feel you. I totally feel you. And it happens at the best possible time, of course.
It always happens at scale. When I start doing one thing wrong, they tend to make drawing before I know the whole drawing is ruined.
It crashes.
The whole thing and restart.
Oh, shoot. At that point, you've got it all done, you know?
It was all done.
Was all done. Sorry, yes. Oh, it's so stressful. College was fun, but I'd never want to go back. You know? Okay, so I've got everything really kind of constructed now. And I don't say this lightly, but all you have left to do is draw, right? So this is your master file. If I close out of my master file, I can save it. I have it ready to print. The title block's in there. I have a viewport. I can even scale the viewport, right? I have all of my drawing files XREF'd into that master file. They're ready to go, right? Which means that I may have nothing in those files, but if it's all constructed, it's all combined together. When I open one of these up, right, interior elevation, there could have been nothing in here. Oh,